Alright folks, welcome to our first farm walkthrough. Figured the best place to start was with the cows. This is Ishri. She's the first cow we bought. We got her from a dairy not far away. She was already bred. With this girl over here, this is Vrinda. And a couple years later she got bred. I had this calf over here. This is Ganga. While we were at the dairy picking up the cow, we found two bull calves there. And dairy industry is not interested in bull calves. So in addition to picking up this mama, we got these two boys. We rescued them from a horrible fate. That's Kishore. Hey Kishore. We use an all-electric fence on the farm here. Sometimes we use a single strand. In this case, this is the sort of barnyard by the house. So we give a double strand just for a little added protection at night. This is the remains of an old apple orchard. So the cows have made it into their scratching post. Plenty of places to scratch after a long day of grazing. To feed our animals, we rely on these small 50-pound round bales that we make with our Italian Kai baler. If the field is too big and we're pressed on time, we will call in some of the local farmers to do large bales. Have them wrapped up, stored out in the field. Otherwise, these bales are pretty slick. So not far from where the cows sleep, we have our gardens. And you can check out our videos on our simple planting method. As you can see, we pulling up landscape fabric from last year. This was our vine crop section. That's why you see some holes down the center. Pumpkins, watermelons, acorn squash, butternut squash. Anything vining we did in this section last year. All the landscape fabric was left over the winter. We're pulling them up one by one, putting down some hay, put wood chips on top, and we plant right into it. No dig, no till. Now we either do a direct seed, like you see here. This is beets. We just drag some sticks along, make little furrows by hand, and drop seeds in. Jank seeder might be a little bit better for that, but we're doing it old school. Drop them in by hand. Now these were tubed with the potty putki. You can see our video on the potty putki planting tubes. Those are highly recommended. This was planted a few weeks ago. As you can see, the results are pretty amazing. We have a few thistle here and there, but for the most part the garden is pretty clean. We have living pathways. We mow them once a week, maybe every 10 days or so. We pass by with our BCS combo mower. There's some nice carrots that came in here. This is a no-till carrot. No dig, no till. We let the earthworms do the work around here, man. Got some more carrots at the base of these beds. Just some short little mini beds before we get to these low tunnels. We made these out of EMT conduit. The first one is 3/4. I'm sorry, that's a 1 inch, I think. That's a 3/4. And then we did 1/2 inch down the belly of it. Just added a few rigid pipes at the end here, take all that tension. This is a ranunculus experiment. I never grew ranunculus before. Ranunculus, redonculus. As we say, Lisianthus is Lasianthus. So, I'll show you the Lasianthus in a little bit. Trying out some greens here in this other low tunnel. The plastic offered a little bit of shade, so presented a little opportunity to get some bok choy before it eventually decided to bolt. It was tasty. So across from these tunnels we have a little maternity pen. We kept our mother and calf here last year. She cabbed somewhere over there in the grass. Kept her away from the rest of the herd, so it was a good birthing. She had this whole place to herself. Right next to there we were growing pumpkins. There's one fabric left. There's some white pumpkins here. We just let the fabric down. When we're ready to plant, we'll just pull it up, put it in a garden. This was a wheat experiment. This was initially intended to be a cover crop, but we decided, I think we're going to keep this for grain. This is another no-till experiment. We have a video on this that we're going to put out. We'll show you exactly what we did. This was a very low carbon footprint wheat bed here. I don't think we used hardly any fossil fuels and did not disturb the soil at all. We used basically landscape fabric and an initial cover crop of buckwheat, which we terminated right around the planting of the wheat towards the end of the summer. And as you can see, it came in very clean. Some of our wheat got knocked down by crazy hailstorm a few days ago. Like I said, this was going to be a cover crop anyway, so we might as well just terminate it here. They're just now flowering, so we may plant directly into this residue. Probably going to sickle bar this with the VCS and just lay it flat, rake it in to a nice little 6-foot bed, and put the planting tubes right into that. This is our warm weather garden. We have 4 gardens. We are rotating. The first garden I showed you was the cool weather crops. Over here with the wheat, the intention was to knock this down right at the time of planting warm weather crops, so it's pretty good timing. We're here now in the beginning of June. So once we take this down, we'll plant our warm weather crops into this garden. Up top we've got a vining crop garden that was basically rotated from down here. And then we'll have another garden up top which we'll leave fallow with cover crops. So that's our 4 plots that we're going to rotate. And we have a number of wheat beds here. They all did good. They were all planted differently. This wheat here was just scattered right into the remains of whatever was growing there last year. I can't even tell what was there. Sort of impossible to see now. but that's why this wheat here does have some weeds in it. We don't really care because we're just going to take it down anyway. But it is nice to see the difference. It's much cleaner down on the other side where we use the buckwheat as an initial cover. Much cleaner, less weeds. This bed here, I left this before I mowed, just to show you. This was a wheat here, oats on the other side. It's basically a oat cover crop that was done in the spring, so it gives you an idea of the advantage that wheat has, considering it gets started the season before. You get a lot more biomass. So we've been mowing down those oats. I left one bed just to show you. We're going to come in here with our hay bales and plant another bed. Now this is another bed here that we found out about an experiment. These are our greenhouse tables. Greenhouse tables are normally just not being used during the summer much, just because they're generally a winter and spring item. So when they're sitting not being used during the summer, I think we're going to use them for a horizontal trellis. Got some tomatoes under here. I'm going to try to run those along these tables. My wife says she looks it up. It's a supposedly a Greek method. Don't quote me on that. It's just some gladiolus that came up again. They were planted last year. We had a mild winter, so I guess they survived. We were going to redo this bed, but we can't do it now because all these gladiolus came up. So we'll leave those and we'll plant the other half of that bed. Some lettuce. A bunch of this stuff got frosted. We got an unexpected late frost, so we're dealing with a bunch of recovering plants here. They'll do fine, but they're a little stunted because they got frosted late in the season. That's the last bed of this garden. Now we have our hoop house. We bent all the pipes. This is chain link fence top railing bent. That's 3 sections of 10.5 feet, I believe. 16 or 17 gauge, I believe, works. We spaced them every 4 feet because lots of wind and snow around here, so we wouldn't go with 5 feet. Wouldn't have been a good idea. Probably would have collapsed. And we have the hoops staked in to ground posts that were driven. They're sticking up about 2 feet, maybe less. And we have a little hoop set up here. This is for hardening off plants in the spring. Give them a little protection, one on each side. Okay, welcome to the greenhouse. This is used for starting plants in the spring, but why waste that space in the summer? We just plant right into the ground. A little look at our rocket mass heater back here. This is a rammed earth rocket mass heater. We'll make a video on rocket mass heaters soon. That's why these tables are over the mass there. This is our like seed starting, seed generating, seed germinating section. The warmth of the mass helps the seeds start real fast. Seedlings get going super quick because of the heat generated by that mass. But we are not running that right now. In the summer, we put soaker hoses and wood chips down, and we put flowers. This is all Lisianthus here. Now, because it's a controlled environment, the flowers grow fantastic in here. Well, anything you grow really. One year we had tomatoes. We found the best idea is to grow flowers in here because it's a high value crop, keeps it out of the weather, keeps the blooms dry and protected. We're able to control the watering with the drip soaker hoses, so it's a much better result. You get much nicer blooms, longer stems. We have some really nice dianthus here. Super nice long stem dianthus. The stock just started blooming. We're primarily flower growers, so we focus on flowers. Some beautiful ornamental basil. Dusty Miller's really taken off. A few Bupleurum in the back. Looks like we're going to have a cucumber trellis here, just for fun, next to Lisianthus. Those look like snapdragons. Now this was cool. All these dahlias sort of survived the winter in our greenhouse without any heat, the coldest months of the year, and we consolidated them into 2 beds there. So those are mostly planted by seed, I believe. Unique varieties that genetically are exclusive here because my wife's done a combination of planting from tubers and planting from seeds. Maybe she'll make a dahlia video for you. Beautiful dahlias, just love it in here. It's super hot in here during the day, which we're trying to minimize with our exhaust system, but limited here. Just some awesome white marigolds. This is a cool plant we're growing for foliage. So that's the greenhouse. Here's a spot we plan to put another tunnel. In the meantime, we put down some fabric to keep the weeds down. It serves as a nursery in the meantime. As you see, we got a lot of frost damage. These are some tomatoes that need trimming back and planting up. Super late frost. Got some sweet pea here. We're gonna trellis up. Got to clean up the beds. A bunch of weeds came through. This for cut flowers, not peas for eating. Sweet pea for bridal bouquets and such, or any kind of bouquet. And it looks like we're going to have a trellis of pole beans next to that. This is our new gladiolus. Looks like they came up really fast. These were just planted. I believe we tried a new bulb supplier this year. We'll see how they go. So we've got 2 gladiolus gardens now. On this side we have all of our herbs. This is a sage that just went to flower. We're using that in the cut flower bouquets, why not? I'm not really selling the sage as an herb. If I brought it to the farmer's market, I probably wouldn't sell much, so cutting it and bundling it is kind of annoying. Waste of time, unfortunately. People don't really cook much, but they make fantastic cut flower stems. So we're just gonna use it for that. Maybe some oregano too. Some awesome oregano right here. Just kind of taking over. I guess oregano can be aggressive. So this is our peony field. We didn't get it fully mowed yet, but got some of the rows mowed down, which is nice. These are predominantly done at the point where we got a few buds left, but some of these got fully disbudded. Smallest plants don't really offer too much right now, so instead of taking what few blooms they have to offer, we'll just disbud. Of course, there's 1,000 plants, so disbudding 1,000 plants is no easy task. We eventually fall behind. Nature's course does not stop. So whatever's left, we might miss a few here and there. No big deal. The bigger plants gave us a decent harvest this year. The cooler is full of peonies. We just have row after row after row of peony bushes. These have been in since 2017, so they are quite established by now. They've had almost no care in terms of fertilizer. They almost have to compete with the weeds every year just because of how much mowing is needed. Mowing around all these plants takes forever. So they generally have to compete with weeds for resources, and that's fine. I mean, that's nature, right? That's how it works. And as you can see, they don't seem to mind all too much. We have some really healthy bushes here. So we have a little cow run smack dab in the middle of the peonies. This is going to be our road, main road through the farm. Eventually, I'm going to put in a gravel drive here, but in the meantime we're running the cows out to pasture, straight through the peony field. Cows have been cleaning up over here. It's one of their pastures. We call it the bowl. It's shaped like a bowl. It's a big brown bowl of grass. I know all you environmentalists are gonna hate me for wrapping up my hay like this, but we don't have a barn yet, and we got cows to feed, and I got a big huge hayfield here. So when you got a big huge hayfield and you got no barn to store that hay, and you got animals to feed, well, this is one way to do it. Now normally we don't do squares. We do like baleage, which these are our baleage size just because the wrapper doesn't do full-size squares. Normally we do rounds, but the guy who was doing the baling, we found out only has a square baler, so we had him do them a little short, the way they do them with baleage. Even though it's dry hay, we still wrapped her up. Got nowhere else to store it, so what to do. This is a field we did by hand. Well, not by hand, but on foot. the BCS. Cut it with the BCS, raked it, baled it, all on foot. Probably with just a few gallons of gas. Looks beautiful. We're gonna make a video with our baler and rake. We already got the footage, but this is one out of I think around 70 bales we did out of this field. There's a bunch more up there that we didn't pick up. This is the only bale that didn't wrap. Took the baler apart and cleaned it up. The first one didn't wrap, but the rest all did. So, did a really good job.